Good Monday morning, folks. I'm Ben Hayes, pastor of First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day at the beginning of this new week. I hope that you've had a great weekend, and I hope that you took the time to worship with your church family. And I hope that you're ready for what God has to do for you today on this wonderful Monday morning. Listen, God has a plan for your life and a purpose, and He wants each of us to seek out His will, to seek out His face, and know exactly what it is that He would have us to do. Because He's always at work around us. He's working around us, and it's our responsibility to see what God is doing and then to join Him in what He's doing. That's the principles and the precepts of Experiencing God by Henry Blackaby. And if you've never read that book, you ought to get a copy and read through it and listen to what Dr. Blackaby has to say. But the truth of the matter is, it's kind of like when the Spirit is moving, the Spirit is working in the church. It's like a mighty wind that's blowing. And one of his favorite analogies is that, like a sailboat, we raise our sail and we catch the wind of the Spirit and let Him blow us, take us to where He would have us to go. And that's a wonderful way to look at life as a believer. But today and the rest of this week, and probably for the next several weeks, we're going to continue our journey through the book of Proverbs. We're in Proverbs chapter 29. In the midst of this section by the wise old king, where he's comparing and contrasting the good from the bad, the righteous and the wicked, and those who live righteous and holy lives, and those who do not. And the same is true here today. We're going to look at several verses to see this. But in verse 4, he says, "The king establishes the land by justice, but he who receives bribes overthrows it." And what he's talking about here is a good king is going to rule with the law, and he's going to promote the law, and he's going to enforce the law, and he's going to be a just king, making just decisions. And because of that, because he has made that decision, he's made that commitment to rule justly, the land will be established because the people will respect that kind of king. At least the good people will. But then there comes along someone who decides that they want to take control or they want to have authority. And so what they do is they begin to bribe people to follow them and to undermine the king. And when that happens, division comes in, discord sets in. And as Jesus said, a nation divided against itself cannot stand. Sadly, this same kind of situation happens in every aspect of our society, at every level of our society. It happens in families, it happens in churches, it happens in businesses, it happens in communities, it happens wherever you go because we live in the midst of sinful people and we have sinful hearts. And one of the things that is one of the premier characteristics of that sinful heart is pride, arrogance, and that desire to control. And so, even in church, for those who claim to be believers, there are those who try to undermine and try to take control and do whatever's necessary to have that authority in the church. And for most of us who have been in church for most of our lives, we've seen it at least once and sometimes more than once. And we know what it does to churches when discord and disunity finds its way into the church or the family or the community. Then nothing is good anymore until that is worked out. And the truth of the matter is that if we're willing to sit down and to let the Holy Spirit work in us, there's no situation that we cannot work out and bring together in a united fashion in a way that would glorify God. Well, the next verse is I think related to this. He said, "A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet." You ever had somebody come up, slap you on the back, and tell you what a great job you're doing? When that happens to me, a lot of times I want to look around and see exactly what he's trying to get away with. I mean, I try to do a good job, but sometimes there are those people who just try to flatter you because they want something out of you. That's what he's talking about. When a man comes and says something good to you, you need to make sure that he's not trying to set a snare, a net for your feet to try to trip you up and cause you harm. See, that's what happens a lot of times in kingdoms and nations, in churches and families. There's someone who comes along and before they go the route of bribery, they try to schmooze their way into authority. They try to trick people into following them by being overly complimentary and flattering. And that's what King Solomon is talking about. Look at verse 6. He says, by transgression an evil man is snared, but the righteous sings and rejoices. Listen, the truth of the matter is those who serve evil will find their just recompense. They will experience their reward, and the righteous will always be exalted. The righteous will always sing and rejoice, because even when things aren't going their way, they have the knowledge, the hope, and the peace that they're walking in God's will, and God always blesses those who walk in His will. So I hope that you'll take that to heart today, and that you'll walk in the way that God has for you and experience the joy that only He can bring. Have a great day today. I'll see you tomorrow.